called an omnibus. So whatever you read in the paper, what it means is a decision on how to spend money. And that decision has been controlled until recently by an act called the Budget Control Act that brought us the sequester, which is a very tight budget box that cut every single line of the budget, and you couldn't move stuff between lines. Passed yesterday did follow on to be change that so that we could do more in places where we need to do more. Now, the bill obviously is not one that any one of us would design out of the 535 legislators, but it represents people coming together across many different world views and parts of the country. And out of that came some things that are relevant to education. Since we're here in school, I thought I'd mention those. One of those being $1 billion more for Head Start to help children get ready for school. That will mean somewhere on the order of about $10 million for Head Start programs here in our state.
Hannigan, thank you also for being with us here in Benton County. My question, I'm assuming that our oil and agricultural subsidies have continued into the current spending plan. And some obviously support that, or it wouldn't be there. I'd be interested in the arguments why those subsidies continue. And my bias would be, how do we get rid of them? Or at least significantly lower them?
Was it Bob? Bob? No.
There we go. Helps if I turn it back on. Bob, thank you for that question. And largely the subsidies are within the tax code rather than the spending bill. And this is another kind of interesting situation where industries, powerful industries, have realized if you want something that subsidizes your industry, better get it in the tax code than the spending bill. The spending bill gets reviewed every year, and the tax code doesn't. And therefore, it almost becomes impossible to end a subsidy. So we have subsidies, special deals for oil companies that were developed when oil was selling for $20 a barrel, and the concern was there wasn't enough profit in it to drive research to make sure there would be a sustainable supply of petroleum. Well, obviously now we're in a very different position, where there's a huge price on oil, it drives all kinds of research, so we should get rid of that. And so let's think about a few of the elements here. The first is, lots of doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners they're baby boomers. They're in their late 50s, early 60s, they're retiring. And when they retire, that means there's fewer doctors and nurses. And so there's supply and demand. When you have fewer doctors and nurses, that increases demand for them. So that probably means that they can charge more. In addition, under the same demographic issue of so many people baby boomers becoming seniors, they need more health care. So you have an increase in demand for health care, fewer doctors, that adds to that pressure. So the basic demographics are that it's probably a very good time to be a doctor. Absolutely, you described many pieces that are happening. And it's one thing if an entity says, for new folks coming into the system, here's what our benefits are. This is how we're changing our health care, this is how we're changing our pension and so forth. But if you're in the middle of the system, you've been laid out, you've been working under a set of rules. And this is why, specifically, I find so egregious the Paul Ryan Amendment. The Paul Ryan Amendment that put into the Budget Act said, basically, we are going to change the COLA, the cost of living adjustment, that's used in calculating pensions for our veterans, and we're going to do it not for new folks who are signing up for the military, but for folks who are in the middle of their careers or who have already completed 20 years of military service or retired from military service and will be receiving that pension then or in the years to come. So I have sponsored a bill to reverse that. A piece of it was reversed in the legislation we had yesterday, so I think we think of that as a down payment on reversing that very egregious Paul Ryan Amendment. And the piece that was done yesterday was for Gold Star families and families with disabilities. But the balance of it, I can assure you I'm going to keep pushing very hard on it.
Now, the broader point here is that we have, you mentioned the pensions disappearing for private world. Folks work their lives to earn a pension in a particular company, and then the new managers of the company will declare bankruptcy. A bankruptcy court will allow them to wash their hands of their responsibilities for the pensions they promised. The pension payments then go to the Pension Guarantee Corporation, which only pays a fraction of those pensions. And so that really undermines the deal that had been structured. So this makes Social Security, which is a defined benefit pension system, all that much more important. If the private system is weaker, we need the public system to be stronger.